in my boat.
Court is in session with Ryan and Sactown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan and Sactown.
Oh, must be Rhino. Come on, Sactown. Let's get it out of our system. Come on.
The next 5 games, okay, and then they'll resonate
get it out of
with me
your
a lot
system.
more than the past games. I'm sorry, that's just the reality of the situation. You played
Come
2
on.
teams that don't give a damn about the year in Charlotte and
We got you. We got you here on a Monday. What's up? Kicking off the first of 5 shows. Yeah, I am still dipping into the coffee. It was a long night last night. So, you know, it's going to be an energized show to pick you up on a Monday. And there is not a lot of time to sulk right now because you got the New York Knicks who have been waiting for you. And we have good news on the other side. Malik Monk is going to be playing tonight. He is completely off the injury report. No Domas, but there is one new addition to the injury report. We'll talk about it. Also, the shot with DeMar DeRozan, the situation with the officials. Is it a bigger conversation? Yes, it probably is. We'll give a little bit of time to it, but I think there's other things we can really pick apart throughout the game, both good and bad, that the Kings are going to learn from. They're going to have to learn quick. Tonight, the Knicks, without Jalen Brunson, they're going to bring it. It's going to be exactly the same kind of game, in my opinion, that you saw last night. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be tough. It's going to be physical. You're not going to get a ton of calls because New York plays a style of basketball that is 0 to 100 at all times. So they put pressure on the officials to make them call it as a loose game, make them let the teams play more or less. So we'll get into everything here that we've got to get to. I was in Stockton over the weekend. I'll tell you what I saw, what I liked. TT going off for 33 on Saturday. Loved seeing that. NFL, a lot going on in the NFL. If you want to talk that, we can do it as well. We'll go to the whiteboard. We'll get your calls. It's going to be a fun show. So come spend a couple hours with me as we kick off the first of 5 here on the channel. Welcome in to the King's Court.
Late nights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now.
It's going to be so nice to have Malik Monk back tonight. A little bit of that energy. Why am I getting preempted by the intro again? My bad, y'all. Going to be nice to have Malik Monk back in the lineup. We can talk about what that looks like, how it integrates, how it fits. We can talk about Devin Carter and his minutes last night. I've got some thoughts on those. And yes, Kawhi did get the last. You know, it's really hard to tell that apart from the beginning of this. They are so similar. Does anybody know what that crying sounds from? I would be amazed if somebody can point that out. So let's get to it. Unpalatable loss. Emphasis on the LA to the Clips. That was a big game. That was a playoff game. That is one that you come away feeling a little bit numb from, quite frankly. But in some ways, I'm kind of happy with the quick turnaround. It is the 3rd game in 4 nights. Now, I did tell you that we have I should say, a new name on the injury list, and that is Jake LaRavia. He is now a game-time decision, questionable right knee soreness. What did everybody think about Jake's minutes last night? You know, he did not step off the court after the start of the fourth quarter. Straight through. Fourth in overtime, he got some minutes. Some of you on the postgame show brought up some interesting points about why he was on Harden at the end of the game. And I think there's a conversation there. And I also think there's a big conversation around the ball movement with this team. As things tighten up, I get that DeMar DeRozan, he's your clutch guy. And my goodness, can we put some type of electrical shock or something in his shoe that is also attached to the 3-point line? So he knows if that toe is on the line. It's been something all season, and it kind of caught him last night, unfortunately. A lot of things we can point to and a lot to discuss, but I want to see what you all are saying. Right off the top again, injury update from the Kings. We knew this yesterday. This was released a couple days ago. Both Domas and Malik had been cleared for basketball activities. Malik, as we've said, in the lineup tonight for the Kings. Domas, he is a no-go again. So Valanciunas going to have to eat up a lot of those minutes tonight. And again, I was in Stockton. Really good time. It was Hispanic Heritage Night. So that was pretty cool. The Stockton Kings had some cool looking jerseys on, some first timers. Not a lot of the two-way guys there, only Mason was in the house. So we'll talk about that. Also talk about Terry Taylor. They beat the San Diego Clippers. That was nice. Nice to see Knicks Kings tonight, which we will hit on. And I have a question. This certainly has to be a fantasy football punishment, right? There's no way that haircut is on purpose. Like, you're paying off a debt. You're doing something as a joke. That's not. I know the famous quote unquote rat tail haircut. You can't even classify that as a rat tail. So I'm not quite sure what that is. Maybe it's me. Am I just seeing this wrong? What is that? Help me out. We'll talk about it more as the show goes along. A lot of guys changing places in the NFL as well. So if you want to call and talk about that, we will. Certainly the top story, getting into this Clippers game and digging through some things that I found important. And I'm going to give credit to my man, Jack. We've got some numbers that he has put together that we'll put up as well. But let's get to all of you on the chat line. Thanks for being here. Athena, thank you for the compliment on the writing and the titling. We greatly appreciate that. I greatly appreciate that. When does Rhino get to go home? You will have an update on that, actually, here in the next 3 or 4 days. So I will be doing that coming up once we get through this homestand. Kawhi had 17 and DeMar had 31 last night. The Kings did a great job on Leonard. The Kings did a great job on James Harden for 3 3/4 quarters. Try saying that 5 times fast. They really did. Keon Ellis, like, if you want to talk about a guy that I really don't know where the limit is at, and I'm not talking about he's going to be an MVP in the NBA, but for the type of player that Keon Ellis is, which is a 3-and-D, which is a guy that can guard multiple positions. He's that utility tool. He's that Swiss Army knife that every team needs. I don't know where his ceiling's at yet, because watching him guard James Harden last night, and I know James is kind of more on the downside of his career, but seeing him be able to take Harden out of the game for most of it and force very hard shots, I just think the sky is the limit for Keon Ellis, which is going to lead me to some of my other points that we're going to get to about this one here in a little bit. Elijah chiming back in. DeMar should have stayed in Toronto to win that 2019 chip. Yeah, right after he left Toronto. It's a good point by you. John needs some beam. All right, John, we'll see what we can do for you, buddy. We'll see what we can do for you, John. Why, John?
John, what the hell are you doing?
John, what is that? What happens every time you go to the grocery store, John? Is the produce manager and the cashier just say,
John, what the hell are you doing?
why are you buying all of our asparagus? Grow your own. Gosh,
John, what the hell are you doing?
Yes, we are in session. The fun guy, Kawhi, he's a special talent. The Kings, by the way, they defended that last possession very well. I went back, I watched the game. One of the callers on the post-game show said Keon should have come over and helped. He actually did. If you go back and take a second glance at it, it was guarded just about as well as you can guard it. I mean, the only thing that you could have maybe asked was that Keon came from the weak side a little bit sooner when Kawhi made that spin. But that's like a 1 in 10 play. That's not a play that you draw up. That's an instinctual play. It depends on who you're guarding. It depends on what the coach has drawn up, but we're going to go through it. Keegan Murray, what's up with this attitude change? And by the way, this has been the Keegan that's inside. He just doesn't really outwardly show it. You're starting to see it now, and I love it. He's another guy where I'm going to start posing the question pretty soon to all of you. Do we know what the ceiling is for Keegan Murray? Honestly. Or I should even ask this. Do we even know the real Keegan Murray as a player? I don't know that we do. He's taken a back seat. Now, you could argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and whether that's a demerit against his basketball play, his game, that he would take a back seat. But I'm wondering if we think we know this guy and we don't know him at all. He's never had that chance to be the guy. And I'm not saying he can be the guy, but the growth with Keegan Murray blows me away. The defense. And then, look, the broadcast last night, Katie talking about how guarding the most difficult player on the court, getting the hardest matchup night in and night out, really, in her opinion, does not affect the other side of the court. I had a real problem with that. I had a big problem with that. And I'm not here to crush Katie. I have a lot of respect for Katie. I think Katie's biggest flaw is she thinks she needs to explain everything that happens or object to something that goes against the Kings every time something goes against them. But other than that, I'm cool with where she's at with the situation that's there with the broadcast team and, you know, musical chairs and whatnot. But that was just a bad take. I just did not like that take at all, especially coming from somebody that was a big woman. And when I mean, I should just say a big in basketball, she played down low. She was a big. She's not Keegan Murray. She's not Keon Ellis. And as much as you want to think that Keegan's playing down low as a forward, he's playing way more on the perimeter defensively. So it didn't age well to me. It didn't sit well with me. When you've had Mike Brown, you've had Doug Christie, you've had others that have played the game that have come forward and addressed that straight on and taken the other side of the argument. I really didn't like that. So, Ken, I can't even get too excited about the Kings until they're able to beat the better teams in the NBA. They've beaten some good teams this year, Ken. Ken, that last night, in a way, set my heartburn aside. It calmed me down a little bit because when I see the Clippers on the schedule, traditionally, you know what I see? I see L. Because the matchups, and I understand Ben Simmons didn't play. I understand Norman Powell didn't play. But the defense that they play, the athleticism that they have compared to the Kings, it has been a nightmare as of late. Last night was not a nightmare. Last night was played very much as a playoff game. So, Dennis, let's go. Mr. Always Positive. You would rock it. BS, man. You ain't doing that haircut. Dennis, come on. There's no way, Dennis. It's a fake Dallas Shaq haircut. Okay, fair enough. I hate nitpicking, but the loss, it's so gross. We have a lot of cleaning up to do. You know what? There is a lot of little things that need to be cleaned up. Some chemistry and some coaching and some playing, to be fair. But you are absolutely correct with that. And we're going to get into those today. Coach DC not happy, not pulling up to shoot his shot. Yes, you know what? Dennis, that is one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, when I go back and I watch the film. This team, at first I said it's Zach LaVine, who's passing up a really good shot for a worse shot. We're starting to see that kind of go through the team right now. Keon Ellis last night passed up a wide open three for what turned into a 24-second violation. So it's something that we need to definitely unpack and get to. Keegan kicking arse and taking names. I love it. Adam loves seeing Keegan talk. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Hey, I put a thing on the X on Friday night when he kind of gave that stare down to Steph Castle. And I said, best caption wins an original Kings bobblehead. And the one that I picked was "Come Get Your Rook, Fox." Apparently, that is exactly what was said on the court. I couldn't believe that. I had to DM the person that won the bobblehead. So good job by them. So let's get into it. Let's talk about last night. Kings lose 111-110. It was a game of runs. That's what it really was. It was a defensive matchup at first. Zubac surprised me. He got some early success, some early flow going. And I thought that the Kings would be able to negate him a little bit better than they did, especially with JV. He's a similar type of player, similar body style as him. The Kings have not had a guy that can play usually a Zubac or a JV in the past. So I thought that that would be negated, but the Clippers took the battle of the paint all night long. In fact, they finished, I believe, plus 12, plus 14 in the paint, but the first quarter was low scoring. It basically told me this is going to be a race to 100, which I put out on the X, and whoever gets there first will win this game. And that's really what it turned out to be. Then the Clippers come out in the second quarter, and they make a nice run. In fact, they go on an 18-6 run against the Kings. And you got some good minutes during that time as well from Devin Carter. Even Devin Carter guarding Kawhi Leonard. Take note of that. That's important. You know why that's important? It answers some of those questions about, can Devin guard multiple positions? And it doesn't permanently answer them, but it does tell us as fans that Doug Christie and the coaching staff feel confident enough to allow Devin to guard multiple positions. So I found some good in that. Ultimately, the game, it comes to half. Feels like, again, it's going to be a race to 100. And the Clippers come out of the third quarter and score 5 buckets in a row. 5 buckets in a row. Exactly what the Kings did to the Spurs on Friday night. The Kings went 8 of 8 and a trip to the free throw line out of the halftime break. And that kind of changed things. You thought it was 63-54. Are the Clippers going to pull away? No, the Kings go on a nice little run of their own, 10-0 run, actually, to be exact. The Kings actually made a really nice play at the end of the third quarter, getting a 2-for-1. They ended up missing on the second part of that 2-for-1. I'm going to show you one of the defensive possessions, the defensive possession to end the third quarter that I thought was just brilliant and perfectly played by all of the guys on the floor. So the table was set for a good down to the wire game, and then things slowed down. The ball movement, it's the same story as in Denver. The ball movement stopped. For a team that had 27 assists in the game, they only had 3 assists in the fourth quarter. They had 3 turnovers also too in the fourth quarter, which was really disappointing to me. I don't know what the answer is when it comes to the ball stopping. I do know this: when you are not moving the basketball, you are incredibly easy to guard, especially if you're going into ISO. Guys are going to start leaving Keegan. They're definitely going to leave Jake. They're going to start leaving Keon and shading to your side. You're predictable. You are not any threat. Your cuts, they're not worried about because they know that you have one thing in mind, and it's ISO ball. Now, to Zach LaVine's credit, I loved how Zach was getting to the hole. That's exactly what Zach needs to do. That's how you keep the defense honest. If you remember, it's what Zach was doing when he first came to Sactown. It just so happened that Zach was not getting very many calls. So I'm happy to see him continue to go to the rim. And then obviously we've got some fourth quarter things that we need to parse out and talk about. First, let's hear from Keegan Murray last night.
Had a lot of good positives, I think. What do you guys kind of take from this one?
I think the common theme in the 2 of those losses we had, we're controlling the game, and then let it slip late in the fourth. So we're putting ourselves in good positions. We have to be able to finish games at this point.
Are you guys happy with the ball movement at the end of these games?
Yeah, I think we're getting different looks, which is something that we weren't doing earlier in the year. So I feel like a lot of guys are getting a better feel for each other in those certain moments, and where I feel like we're making good plays, especially on the offensive end.
And on the defensive end, what do you guys think is working right now for you guys? Obviously, the loss, but holding a good team to not a lot of points again, kind of been the trend for the last couple of weeks.
Individual defense, starting with the point of attack. So Keon was really good tonight. Jake's been really good. Just the point of attack, and then I feel like we're doing a good job of helping one another. When someone gets beat, I feel like there's another guy there most of the time. And with good defenses, that's what you have to have.
Good evening, everybody.
So that was Keegan Murray. Interesting about the ball movement, because he kind of contradicted himself. His first comments were more along the lines of we had it flowing and then it stopped. And then he said he liked the ball movement. Remember, Keegan hit a massive three-pointer to put this team up 7 points with 2 minutes to go. 7 points with 2 minutes to go. And then this happened. The Kings, in the final 2 minutes, they blow a 7-point lead. The score was 95-85. You had 2:18 on the clock. And now the most debated play here in Sactown, or at least the most debated play for the last 18 hours, has been this one by DeMar DeRozan. Now, there was a couple of things. And by the way, we are monitoring the NBA website to see if they release the 2-minute report. I am still yet to see that released. I don't know that anything would change in the 2-minute report as I'm refreshing it right now, because it was reviewed in Jersey, in Secaucus. But let's talk about it. Where do you stand? We're going to talk about tonight, Athena, but there's some important things from last night that I want to get to. Where do you stand on the DeMar play? Here's my thing with the DeMar play. Yeah, they haven't released it yet. I just checked. So the DeMar play was a play that I think should not have happened. I don't think that that was a good shot whatsoever. I think that with 10 seconds left on the clock, when you are up 2 points or 10 seconds on the shot clock, that to me is a bad shot, especially when you have 2 defenders right there in the neighborhood. Now, the way the refs explained it last night, the ref said that it was marginal contact. If you go by the letter of the law, reading the marginal contact rule, it says that the offensive player initiates contact. I don't know that to be true in this case. I've watched the play over and over, and I can see an argument for both sides of the coin. So, what I'm going to defer to is that the Kings should have gotten a better shot. They should have ran the shot clock down more. They should have tried to get to the line. Flores says foul, no question. Whether it was a good shot or a bad shot, last shot, first shot. Yeah, no, I hear you. So let's go to the phones really quick. Let's bring in Tay as we continue the discussion. What's up, Tay?
Hey Ryan, I'm still reeling from the loss. I think it was a heartbreaker loss last night from King's perspective. You know, if this was a loss in December or November, I think we could brush over it. But the amount of weight that these games carry, it was really so crushing, especially since I was there in the stands and had to see Kawhi make his second career game winner against the Kings. Um, One question I wanted to ask Ryan was, who is our 1A on offense in terms of closing? Is it DeMar at this point? And I feel like DeMar's been chucking a lot more shots as of late, obviously since Fox's departure. But I think Levine is more potent offensively, and I seen Levine defer a lot more to DeMar, down the stretch. Is that just their two-man game going on? I think the team does not have a clear 1A for closing. I think they just try to find the hot man, whoever is hot. And I think that's one of the problems too, because even if you look at Levine's um, last second shot, that wasn't a very good drawn up play. I thought he could have driven more to the basket instead of trying to take a fadeaway jump shot. So who do you think is our 1A right now?
Well, we have to remember that you're playing, or in this game, you were without Monk, you're without Sabonis. If you have a healthy roster and you saying the hot guy, that's going to play into it every single night, because that's going to really dictate how the defense is guarding you. And that could open something else up for someone else. So that is a variable. That's one of those subjective things. But if I had to make a list of who I am going to go to in order for the last shot, it's probably right now DeRozan. Okay, this is me personally. I would say DeRozan, Monk, Levine. That's me personally, because you're not going to initiate a last shot usually with Domas. You want him under to attract some attention, or you pull him out to make some space for the other guys to get to the hoop. I would probably think, if you go off of last night, and I know Monk wasn't playing, the coaching staff may see it as DeRozan, Levine, and then Monk. How about you?
I would just swap the order of, I would go Levine, DeMar, and Monk in that order.
Okay. All right.
I just
Fair
think
enough.
Levine has a quicker first step at this point of his career. He's not good. He's not good of a mid-range shooter as DeMar, but I think Levine is a much better three-point shooter, obviously, and has a better drive to the basket and can get fouled more easily. So
I don't disagree, but here's where I go the other way. It's DeMar can distribute as well. You have to take that into an account with the last shot. If they double team you, DeMar had 10 assists last night. And Zach LaVine he ended up with 2 assists for the night. I asked Jerry at halftime, I'm like, Jerry, are we starting to get to the point with Zach LaVine where it's like, just don't even try to create for anybody else? Just do your thing, get you. Because us looking at the shot selection, especially his last shot in the fourth quarter, that would have been the game winner, It doesn't look like a great shot to us, but with the NBA guys, they have certain spots that they always want to get to because they're their best spots. And
True.
the fadeaway is 100% a part of Zach LaVine's game. And
Good point.
we're in Sacramento just going to have to get used to that. That's part of his game. It's worked in. He's good at it. He's used to it. So although it goes against fundamentals, although it's not using the backboard as some people have suggested, for him, that's a good shot. Now, if that's Keegan Murray taking that, that's Keon Ellis, it's a terrible shot. So it varies player to player. So I still think DeMar has to be at the top, especially with the way that he can draw fouls. He is much better at that than Zach LaVine is.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with DeMar is I think in a way his game is a little bit one-dimensional at this point of his career. When Derek Jones Jr. was guarding him through stretches, Jones Jr. played really good defense and sort of neutralized DeMar. But to your point too, he could be a playmaker. So guess we'll see how it goes. On another topic, I think it's really incredible to see these 35-year-old, 40-year-old guys still dominating the league, including DeMar. Harden was incredible last night, and LeBron James too. It looks like these guys are just aging gracefully and still putting up big numbers and being contributors to their team.
Say those names again: Harden, LeBron,
and DeMar. I think Harden's
DeMar.
35, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know exactly how old
Yeah,
he is.
but these guys are still cooking, whatever teams they face. So good to see that they're aging gracefully in the league. It's going to be different when those guys retire. The NBA is not going to obviously look the same. So
yeah, well, I mean, they're all so different too in their ways. I mean, DeMar DeRozan has kept the mid-range alive. He's made a point to do that. And he's modeled his game after some greats, all-time greats. So to lose a guy like that in the league, yeah, it's going to be different for sure. But basketball is changing. We're seeing it change every single year. So it's all about longevity these days. And I think a lot of that, I made the argument about Fox, Tay, is not going to the hoop. That's a longevity decision because drag your career out. It's a 3-point game now. Now it's not best for the team, but that's where players have to find that balance between the two. But natural basketball ability, love seeing DeMar DeRozan.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Tay.
Talking to you.
Yep. Appreciate you. Love that we have people tuning in from all over. Where was it? Spain or Puerto Rico? Let's see. Puerto Rico. Heck yes. Kamikaze. Nice. Bet the weather's nice in Puerto Rico. Bet it's beautiful there. Love Puerto Rico. Never been to Puerto Rico, but would love to try to go to Puerto Rico someday. Thought DeMar was going to take the shot. Yes, this is true. We're looking at the breakdown for tonight, by the way. Thought DeMar, we hit that. You put it in twice. DeMar has been very clutch this year, but you don't want to do the same thing every play plus run a play. Yeah, it's a great point. Alex, DeMar should put up a shot, I'm assuming, to mid-range or pass it and get even a better shot. You absolutely cannot or should not shoot a three-pointer late when your team is leading by 2 points with 10 seconds left on the shot clock. 10 seconds left on the shot clock. Dennis, welcome to the King's Court.
Yo, my man, what's going down?
What's up, brother?
And my bad, I went to blow up the chat, but yeah, it's just the nitpicking we have to go through. But I understand it's the growing pains for the team. Obviously, you have to dissect every little thing, and I love how you hit on like some of the certain things I was hitting on too. Like I would love to see the defense get after the claw sooner than let him get to where he wanted to get to his spots. You know what I mean? We can't let him, dictate, anything, especially in the last seconds. I'd rather get the ball out of his hands. But like you said, those are just like the little things that the cohesiveness of this team is going to get there when we get more playing time together. Obviously, still a new team. It's fresh to everybody. Uh, Keon needs to be a little more aggressive. Keegan needs to be more aggressive. Those guys will be a little more passive sometimes. Like, hey, young guys, you see Levine and you see DeMar going 1 of 7 for 3. Step up. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more of a sign you need. Like nobody needs to tell you at that point. Like,
How
you know what I
about
mean?
how about and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be Monday morning quarterback here. Pass the damn ball. You know how many shots Keon Ellis had in the fourth quarter? 0. You know how many shots Keegan Murray had in the fourth quarter? 2. You know how many he made? 2. Pass the ball.
Well, that's yeah, and we hit on that too, Rhino. Like that's coaching too, right? That's got to be your coach saying, "Hey, let's spread the ball around. Let's go back to our, fundamental." I want to, harp on the old Hoosier philosophy. Pass the ball 4 times, before you take a shot, kind of get everybody in a rhythm because it is a team collective effort. But when you have ISO guys like like DeMar, especially, it you kind of want to. It's just a cohesiveness of getting everybody going. DeMar's ISO-ness, but he, like you said, he had 10 assists last night, so the ball was going good. And like you said, yeah, we don't want to Monday quarterback it, but yeah, it just really felt like the fourth quarter, DeMar was flowing. The shot should have went to him instead of Zach LaVine. And then overtime, like both of them stepped up for us. I mean, Jonas stepped up big for us. And it's just one of those games like, ugh. It's like you got to nitpick something, and it just sucks, Rhino. It just sucks.
There was more good last night than bad. I will say that.
100%.
There's more good than bad. Last night, although on the surface, it's one of those losses that does make you a little bit numb. It's a loss I can live with because of how the Kings fought, how they adjusted for the most part, how they were able to take a punch and then counterpunch right back. And more importantly, match up with a Clippers team that going into last night, I did not think they could match up with whatsoever. Now, once you have a full roster, the question becomes what's Doug's moves going to be? How's that going to change things? Because they also were missing players. And I don't know, like, I guess the question for all of you, anybody, and Dennis, I'll pose it to you first. Anybody have an issue with LaRavia getting 17 straight minutes through the fourth quarter and overtime?
Absolutely not, because the one thing that Kings fans acknowledge is we had sized, deficit versus other teams at times, and now that you have a Jake, now you can match up with Harden. Now you can, where Harden would kind of bully Keon around a little bit more because he's a big back. He's got a little thickness to him. So he's got a little junk in his trunk, and he'll back Keon down. You know what I mean? So
Did you just say junk in his trunk?
you know that junk in the trunk, Rhino, man. And it's hard when that's thrown at you a lot, especially if you're an undersized guy. Where Jake, gives us that where we didn't have that before, like, so obviously that's where coach leaned on him. I liked it. It's just when their bench was scoring 30 points to our like 17,
Yeah.
when the previous outings our bench was scoring like 25, 30, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was my main thing. Like Doug has got to get the bench involved more. He's got to get, like, they're there, utilize them. I mean, these guys aren't just throwing 25 points, 30 points a night on a flam. Like, utilize them, Doug. They're in there. So that's my only thing. I know he's a rookie coach. He wants to lean on his starters and this and that, but we can't do that, Doug. We can't have our guys playing 40-plus minutes a night and then follow up with a back-to-back. Like, I'm hoping he goes deep into the bench tonight. I really do. I really do.
You have Monk back, but if LaRavia doesn't play, that is because of how New York matches up with us and Cat and Anunoby. I just don't like the feeling of that because Laravia is kind of that utility guy that can guard 3, 4, 5 in spots. And that's what you need. You need somebody. What's made the difference for the Kings with the bench unit and to a degree, I'm going to say half of the starting unit because the way that Doug substitutes, it's their ability to switch. Like one of the things that's made the Clippers defense so good is they switch 1 through 5. They have the athletic ability and talent to do so. When you have Laravia, Keon, Keegan, and Monk on the floor together, those 4 can switch. They can all switch. And so I'm looking for Doug to just keep trying to find those lineups. And I would have liked to as well see a little bit more of that zone defense when Harden started cooking. Just throw him a different look. We kind of saw a little dose of the first loss to the Lakers where Mike Brown did not adjust to the way that LeBron James was playing. And LeBron went off for, I think it was like 19 or 21 in a row. That's what kind of happened with Harden last night. So I feel you, Dennis. Looking forward to tonight. Appreciate the call, brother.
I appreciate you, Rhino.
Good job. Dude, Dennis said junk in the trunk, and I legit... That's what I wanted to do. Junk in the trunk. So yes, we are going to be talking about tonight as well. Not really much more to dissect. I think we've hit with that shot and where we stand. We're going to get to your guys' comments here in a second. Again, I am interested in the 2-minute report. And somebody said that they did not like the delay when they reviewed the DeMar 3. I thought that it was a long delay too. I thought that kind of hurt as well. When you're in that stretch of the game, the review has got to be quicker. It just has to. That's me. So let's talk about that last play. I do want to go to the whiteboard really quick, the defense. And this translates to tonight as well. So understand that this is not so much about last night. It's just as important as tonight, even though the Knicks are going to be playing without Jalen Brunson, which is huge. But remember, Josh Hart has been bugging the Kings for a really long time. Josh Hart, what did he come in here and do last season? 16 rebounds. I think like 10 were offensive. So the Kings are going to have to clean that up. This was the last possession last night. And I'm going to show you 3 different looks at it. This was the start of the possession. Picture perfect. It's pretty much exactly what you want. Now, here's the decision that's being made. Keon, obviously right here on Harden, you're not leaving Harden. You're not going to slide off too much. So right here between Jones and Kawhi, Jake LaRavia is the one that's going to dictate really what Kawhi Leonard's going to do. If Jake starts coming up, Kawhi's going to Derek Jones Jr. Conversely, if Jake falls down too much, Kawhi's going to get this entire side cleared out, and you'll obviously get a little bit of help from down low with JV. So I thought the Kings did a great job right off the top with at least the look that they gave defensively there. Now, let's go to the middle of the play. Here's the middle of the play, which I think is important. And you'll see what the Kings ended up doing. It was not bad at all. So LaRavia played it to me perfectly. He played that middle part perfect, enough so to where Jones Jr., who was previously right here in the corner, if my pen's going to work, give me back my pen. There we go. Jones Jr. was back in the corner here. He already started cutting, so it makes it pretty clear what LaRavia is going to do now. LaRavia is going to provide this defense here. Now, where some of the callers last night on the postgame show kind of said they wanted Keon to crash over here when Kawhi made that spin back this way, that's a really, really tough ask. Because then you've got James Harden right here, wide open for a 3 in his spot. So I thought, again, from a defensive standpoint, for the last possession of the game, and some of these guys, Zach LaVine, many of you think he does not play the great defense. Everybody was positioned perfectly, in my opinion. There was nothing wrong with the way that this looked. Now, let's get to how the play turned out. Here's how the play turns out. And you will see that Keon, so I bring this back in, Keon does attempt to make a play on Kawhi here. Keon does come from the backside. I thought Keegan guarded this just about as well as you could guard this, especially when you go back and you look. It was contested well. Look at it. Keegan's right there. And Keon did come from that backside to try to help. It was just a little too late. You know what? Great shot beating good defense. That's why Kawhi Leonard's a top 7 guy in the NBA when he's healthy and playing right. So I'm showing you that, and I'm going through it because I want to reinforce, like, there's good things here. They played that right. They just got beat by a better shot from a star. So that's growth for the Kings. How many times do we talk about giving up a second offensive rebound? How many times do we talk about leaving a three-point shooter? They played it right. They played it just as they should have. Now, you can question, maybe they should have been in a different defense. Possibly. I think that's fair, but didn't have a big problem with it. Now, let's go to some of the positives that I saw. Especially, I want to talk about this guy. There was some good and bad with Devin Carter last night. Obviously, the scoring and the offense, pretty darn good for him. It's clear, and on the pregame show, if you were with us, I said, you want Devin just to come in and focus on defense and let the offense come to him. And I was on the record before anybody else saying Devin should have been sent to the G League. Go get some time in the G League. Maybe keep him there the rest of the year. Let him get comfortable because he was getting sped up way too much on offense. And so he did. He went to the G League. He actually played really well down there. He got some extended run. Now he's been back with the Kings, and he's looked better offensively. You saw it last night. He slowed down. It was good. Now he missed a couple of free throws. Not good there. Those were big free throws. Need those free throws. Got to have those free throws. They did not fall. But other than that, there was more good again with Devin Carter than there was bad last night. In fact, I'm going to show you a play last night. This was to get the steal on the third quarter or at the end of the third quarter. I thought this was picture freaking perfect. You can't draw it up any better. You can't. This is a read play. This is not a play where Doug says you are going to trap for sure. It is up to Zach LaVine and Devin Carter to talk on this play. And if you are going to trap, you got to get them into a spot on the court where you want to be trapping. And they did that. They got James Harden to pick up the basketball right here on the court. And here comes the double. They doubled him perfectly. And what's that mean? James Harden has one pass, and it's right here. That's the only pass James Harden can make. And Jake LaRavia comes up and steals it right there. Beautifully done. Beautifully done by Devin Carter last night. Those are the growth things. That's the game slowing down a little bit for that young man. Now, conversely, last night, there were some not so good things. And this is something that we have continued to see with Devin Carter when he gets time with these guys in the big leagues. He's not, and it's small things. It's just fundamentals. DeMar DeRozan sent this pass to Devin Carter. Look at Devin Carter's feet. They are flat on the ground planted. When you get a pass from a teammate, Devin should be coming to the basketball. Coming to the ball. He should be going that way. But instead, he's got his arms extended out like an NFL receiver is taught to catch the basketball. When you are in a 111, 110 game, as we get closer to the end of the season, you will very likely be in the same spot tonight against the Knicks. It's going to be a race to 100. Every possession, whether it's in the first quarter or the fourth quarter, it's going to matter. And if Devin Carter is going to get these extended minutes, that is one of those things that he's got to be better at. It's happened 4 or 5 times already this season. You have to come to the basketball. Got to do it. No questions asked. Coming to the basketball. Exactly. Oh, look who's back. What's up, Kim? Welcome in, Kim. Hope you're having a great day, Kim. You know what, Kim? You're an idiot. We don't need you to explain to us about your opinion or what you think should happen. Then what am I doing here, Kim? What is my job here, Kim? You know what, Kim? You're blocked. You know what, Kim? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to put your example in of any of this stuff you've been coming in and trolling about. You can't put an example in, then you're blocked. We don't need you around here. Quite frankly, I don't want you around here. You have driven me to that point. Yeah, you're blocked. You are absolutely blocked. Goodbye, Kim. See you later, Kim. You are an idiot. Good night. Gone. Done. Yes, judgment done. You are blocked. Man. Gotta love Kim, man. Kim is in contempt. Coming to the ball, it was a bad pass, LMAO. It should have been on his chest, so far from his body. What a dummy. I don't think it was a bad pass. If you go back and watch the film, it was not a bad pass. No. So let's talk about tonight. Let's talk about the Knicks. Let's talk about what we think is going to happen. The Knicks, a basketball team that has been struggling as of late. Let's pull them up. Look at them. They have lost their last couple of games, and they have had plenty of rest, and they lost their best player in Jalen Brunson. He is the straw that stirs the drink for them. How is that going to change things for them? Are they going to be able to create enough offense? All those things we will get into in a second. But first, let's hear from Doug Christie last night.
Tough one. Left-handed hook at the buzzer. Yeah, you're just going to have to live with that one.
Doug, just kind of what are your overall thoughts about the way you guys played, the way you defended, the way the job you guys did on James and Kawhi throughout the game?
I thought that the guys were locked into the game plan. I thought they did a good job. I thought Zubac got away in the pocket from us a couple times that it took us a second to adjust to that. But all in all, like, the byproduct of playing hard like that is ultimately going to be wins, and super proud of the way that these guys continue to build off of everything. We want to win every game, so that just sucks and it hurts, and you got to deal with the pain that our league brings. But defensively, I thought there was some fantastic efforts out there, and we'll continue to build off of that.
Only turned the ball over 8 times tonight. What were your thoughts on the ball movement, but also not a lot of turnovers, not a lot of mistakes on that side?
Well, another area, like when you look at this, like everything is here but to win in many ways. One of the keys was taking care of the basketball, because they are really good at turning you over, getting out in transition. And I thought that we did a decent job on that. 8 turnovers for 14 points. Like, you know, we can even be better in my opinion, but I thought that they did a good job at the ability to play off a 2, move the basketball. Those guys are really handsy. And, you know, when you are that handsy, you get away with a lot of things. And, you know, for them to come out of this game with 8 turnovers, I say, well done, guys.
Hey, Doug, can you talk about just Jake and the decision to go to him late, in the lineup, regulation and overtime?
I mean, more than anything, Jake had some fantastic stops. His effort, his physicality, his aggressiveness. A lot of the things that I continue to talk to them about, he was doing. It was back and forth. There was offensive and defensive subs, but he did a fantastic job. And I thought since he's gotten here, trying to find a rhythm for him has been tough at times. But his size, his physicality allows us to switch in different things, and he did a good job.
Can you talk about the last play, just the way you guys defended it? Kawhi getting to the, as you said, the left and a hook that just kind of gets the bounce. And then I'll follow up with another question.
I was trying to tell Keon to go, but it is loud. He doesn't hear. I don't know that was their play because it looked like they won.
So a little confirmation that he did want Keon to go there. The 2-minute report is out. Let's look at this really quick together. Just came out. So just to give you a quick explanation, if you are not familiar with the 2-minute report, a CNC in this review decision means correct no call. A CC means correct call. Let's go through it. Let's see. First play in question, offensive foul, Derek Jones Jr., player Zach Levine, correct no call. Okay. Correct no call. Correct call on the shooting foul on Keegan. Let's get to the one we want. Derek Jones Jr. and DeMar DeRozan. Here we go. 1:04 left. Replay review of the foul called on Jones Jr. pursuant to the coach's challenge was deemed successful. Jones Jr. makes incidental contact. So that's different. They said marginal contact last night. Incidental contact with DeRozan's hand after he released the shot, and some marginal contact thereafter. The ball is loose at the point of interruption, and therefore the play resumes with a jump ball. Center circle. Huh? Am I reading that wrong? Are we talking about the same play? Let's go to the video. Huh. So it is the right play. The ball is loose at the point of interruption, and therefore play resumes with a jump ball at the center of the circle. All right, let's bring you guys in on the talk. Dirk, what's up?
Hey, sorry I'm late to listen today.
Oh, you're good.
Overall, how are you feeling about the performance yesterday? Just not necessarily the outcome. Give it a 10 score. How happy are you with the Kings' performance?
8.5.
Yeah, me too, man. Yesterday was just fun to watch. I'm sorry, but the outcome being what it is, I can't believe how good of defense this team is playing.
Yes,
it's incredible. So it makes me feel better, even if let's say we're a 10 seed. At least I feel like if the team can play consistent defense, they got a shot. It's not ideal to be the 10 seed, right? But I'm feeling better than I was 2 or 3 weeks ago in how things are performing. We've cleaned up the turnovers. The team is starting to gel and just find it's a rhythm. Might not be the most entertaining rhythm at all times, but overall, I'm just really excited about it moving forward. At the same time, how worried are you about how Sabonis specifically is going to fit when he returns?
I'm more worried about what Doug Christie is going to pick and pull from what's been successful without Sabonis, because we've seen like multiple times this year when guys have been out and the teams had success, whether it's moving the ball, doing more set plays, more pick and roll, and then guys return and the Kings go back to just this mind-numbing, confusing, lethargic, stagnant offense. So I'm hoping that it's more of a case that he's able to work Sabonis into what's being successful and working right now, rather than going back to what we always do with Sabonis, if that makes any sense.
Well, I wonder if it's what we're doing with Sabonis or what Sabonis does. That would be my key distinction. Is that just Sabonis's default? Can he play a different way? Again, it's hard to look at the stats and just, if a layman looks at the stats, they're just going to say, well, that's a lot more production you're getting. Well, that defensive large anchor down low can make up for a lot of mistakes on that defense and let your athletic guys gamble a little bit more. So I am concerned, but it's really cool what's going on right now. I wanted to get your take on something you may have discussed. I don't know, but it came up in I would say maybe one of your competitors' interviews, in regards to the Sam Amick article that came out.
Yeah.
I won't name the reporters, but to quote, there's a lot of information that's been around for a while. That article in The Athletic, it ain't over. Buckle up.
Right.
The minute the Kings stop playing basketball this year, things are going to get interesting. It's going to be juicy. There are things you're going to like, and there are things you're not going to like. Have you heard this, number one? And two, what's your take on what that could mean?
Yes. I've talked on the channel about things that there's more context to some of the things that have happened this year, but there's really no reason of opening that can, because it doesn't change anything at this point this season. And it's more of a discussion after the season. So if you're referring specifically to the players that did not want Mike Brown to get an extension or to be the coach, and maybe two of those players still being in the locker room, yes, there's two players that did not want Mike Brown. Now, who you think those two players are, I will leave that up to interpretation for everybody. But also in terms of the organizational chain and who's making calls, who's not making calls, and I guess the big thing for me, Dirk, is are we, and this is what you're probably alluding to, because it was put in the article, or somebody, maybe it was the ESPN, that Sabonis is going to reevaluate, the organization more or less. I'm paraphrasing, at the end of the season. Will the Kings by default be placed into a rebuild? Are you going to have another start?
No, I mean, honestly, that I'm not so worried about Sabonis. Like, let's say hypothetically he wants out. I mean, you are seeing what your team looks like lately with a larger, functioning center who's also now under contract for 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
As is Sabonis.
I think, no, JV is only under through next year, I believe. Let me confirm that. Oh, no, you're right. 3 years. You're right. He's through 26, 27.
Right. So you got some capability there. If Sabonis wants out, I'm honestly not too concerned with that. I like Sabonis, but he's not all positives. There's reasons beyond the Sacramento Kings dysfunction why he's not named an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
So that is potentially an asset, that is valuable potentially to some other organization, which you could maybe fill out your roster a little bit more with a starting point guard, a backup center, and maybe that you get a more functional team. So I'm not stressing about Sabonis. I'm sort of indifferent in that range. In regards to the decisions I'm concerned about, originally I was wondering if maybe Vivek would be stepping back and appointing his daughter to serve in some of what his job duties are. And then as I texted that to a friend, he scared the hell out of me by saying, what if she's the GM? And that kind of that started to put a pit in my stomach a little bit. If that's the major change that people wouldn't like. So I'm trying to gauge if there is organizational turnover on the back end. Like people say some decisions you might like. I could see that being Doug Christie is, the head coach moving forward, which I personally would not have a problem with. It's more of what our front office would be doing, what the vision for that future would be. So is there any realistic thoughts to that could be an outcome moving forward?
In my heart of hearts, I say no. I don't think formally, but I think Sam's article spells out a pretty accurate depiction of the, I guess, misunderstanding about the structure of the organization. And you're around almost every show, especially post-game shows. Grant named 3 of the 4 people that were in the article days before the article came out that Vivek is constantly talking to on the phone outside of the organization. Look, the only reason that Angeli walked away or went to pursue her nonprofit, in my opinion, was because of the incident that happened with Chase Comanche in Stockton and his girlfriend, where they were convicted, I believe at this point, because they pled guilty of murder. And any notion that I think the bigger concern, Dirk, is any notion of whether she is officially the GM or not the GM, the notion is still going to be there that there is some access to Vivek and some considerations and some weight behind her and even Anil. And if Jeremy Lamb can be a boyfriend and, per Sam's report, possibly be having input, then who else is having input? Who could have input? I don't see any way that she's GM, but I also would argue I don't think it matters if she is officially GM or not, because Monty McNair is kind of, look at how Monty's taken a step back. It's, I don't know.
What do you mean by taking a step back?
Well, Wes Wilcox has been more front facing this entire season. He's been the one that has been more accessible. He has been more out there than Monty has been. Monty, in many ways, especially just even in daily duties, I think Sam's article alluded to this a little bit as well, that Wes has been the one that's really been running a lot of the day-to-day stuff in that front office, certainly with Monty's oversight. But what kind of GM is going to want to come to Sacramento and be in this situation? The secret's out, Dirk. So put any GM you want in, you still have the same problem with Angeli and everybody else in that family that doesn't know much basketball, my friend.
Well, I mean, I don't know them, so I don't know. It feels like if you're the most charismatic, convincing person, like imagine instead of a GM, a lawyer, right? You're able to convince your Vivek of your argument. This is the plan. Reinforce the plan moving forward. Here's the variables. A GM that can explain this in terms like remind Vivek of the past mistakes, that when you've ebbed this way and ebbed that way, it feels like you could sell a vision of what you want to accomplish. Here's our goals. Here's what we're doing. Now, I don't know, Vivek. It seems if you perpetuate a failing product in the terms of winning, maybe the team is very profitable for him, so he views it as a success, what's happening. But you have to look back at your failures and think, well, what went wrong and what can I do moving forward? So if I want a GM who can convince Vivek that he's got the plan, and if Doug has to be part of that, there's only 30 GM jobs. And this might be the stepping board to maybe a future GM job. I think that any guy that comes into Sacramento, or GM, whoever that is, would be looking at this as an opportunity to springboard to something else. Doesn't mean that you can't achieve. But again, I don't understand the personality of someone who would perpetuate 10 years of mostly failure ad nauseum until the wheels fall off.
Well,
they're not usually nepotisms, like it's not like the New York guy.
Right, exactly. They're two completely different circumstances. And I think perspective is really important. What is considered failure? Look, this organization and every other organization took a massive hit the COVID year. The COVID year really hurt these teams from a standpoint of revenue, from games. The reason the bubble went on, there was a push for that bubble, is if the regional providers did not get a certain amount of games or get their minimum number of games, then those contracts would have been defunct and the teams wouldn't have gotten the money from those regional providers. So that was a large push to get something back in place to at least get to that number. That's how the NBA came up with the number of games that they were going to play the rest of the season. And so Vivek, I don't know if he looks at this run as failure. I don't know if he's looking at the bottom line. I don't know what success is to Vivek. He is somebody that is also not front facing. We have not heard from Vivek since any of this has happened this season. I can't remember the last time Vivek was in front of a camera or gave access to somebody for an interview. And I guess the worry that I have, again, going back, you're saying a springboard job, and I don't want to talk about the GM job because it's Monty McNair's right now. It's Monty's job. I don't want to take him out of his job, but the same problem sits there with this informal chain of command that has more power and a complete lack of understanding comparative to the people that are the professionals that they have put in place to handle these day-to-day tasks. I mean, it's not a surprise that Monty McNair did not want to fire Mike Brown. I don't think anybody was surprised when you read that. I said I was a little bit surprised when I read it in the article. I was surprised that Sam wrote it, but I don't think any of us were shocked at that. But just think about that whole thing. Vivek's in Cabo. He's with Jeremy. He's with his daughter. And Monty has to fire Mike Brown, then is basically told or not told, just has to sit still, then gets trouted up to the media 46 days later and gets completely annihilated in that first press conference, takes full responsibility for it, falls on the sword. ESPN articles, he says that, he convened the meetings. All of it's BS. I guess what I'm saying is, if not Monty, I don't know that there's any reputable person other than somebody that desperately either needs the money or a springboard, like you're saying. There's nobody that, until the owner changes his ways, I'm not going to say the owner changes, until the owner changes his ways, this is a yes man job. This is a career. This is a step down. This is a demerit on your career if you take this job. It's almost like it's the same disrespect that we see nationally for the Kings, and you understand it now. Why, when Sabonis doesn't get all-star bids, like when Malik Monk does not get the Sixth Man of the Year award, the league looks down on how this thing is being ran. Both the coaches, the front offices, and the other owners. So I guess that is the pit in everybody's stomach, is we can make these transactions, we can bring other people in, but you're coming in under the guise of you really have no power. And ultimately, To a degree, you're right. Maybe you just name her GM and Vivek is co-GM and managing partner. I don't know, because that's really what it is. It stinks. And I feel for Monty. I feel for Wes. But, this is going to be a stain on Monty's career probably as well. I feel bad for the guy.
What do you really though? I mean, it's not ideal. The guy has made his money. He got a job. He's not. It's not going to be your last job to have to manage a guy like Vivek Ranadive, to provide the second winning season ever in winning teams ever in a franchise. That's quite a resume. I'm not worried about their ability to get other jobs, because ultimately it comes down to winning. And my big concern is with young talent like guys like Keegan Murray. How's Keegan gonna feel? He reportedly loves Fox, right? They're good buds.
Yeah.
And suddenly when his contract comes up, maybe he's not interested in signing here because of the organizational dysfunction. And now that's where it becomes a problem, where pervasive player reputations, especially with a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who this offseason has been talking about, this previous offseason, this culture is about winning. Everything I see is about winning. He looks foolish by saying all that, and it implodes within a year. And that's the big concern. How will it impact long-term signings?
Need him to go.
So
sorry about that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's already impacted things to a degree. Agents know, the secret's out, coaches know, players don't, a lot of players don't want to come here. And I know that everybody's going to say, well, Zach LaVine wanted to come here, but nobody else wanted Zach LaVine's contract. Look at how long he was on the market.
Well, bad contract doesn't mean bad player per se. He's not worth his contract, right? So Zach LaVine at 45, especially this modern approach, but there is some talent there that is
100%.
Yeah.
But with the injury history and some of the friction, like him and Billy Donovan, they were not speaking for a while. DeMar was the conduit between them when they played together in Chicago. It was a situation that a lot of teams did not feel like the reward outweighed the risk on your books. But it's also a situation where you can come out looking like a star. He can outplay that contract very easily as the inflation and the cap goes up in these coming years. But, he didn't have a lot of choices to choose from. You know what I'm saying, Dirk?
Yeah, but
there weren't a lot of teams calling for his services.
I get you, Ryan, but it's never going to be that way. No one's going to choose to come to Sacramento unless there is some mega superstar you draft who elevate that. And that's the way it just exists in the NBA. If Wemby wasn't in San Antonio, I'd say Fox probably be a lot less influence of where he should go. That's Rich Paul telling him, you're going to blend well with this team because of these reasons. You guys like playing with Giannis in Milwaukee, right? They're able to come there because it gives them the greatest chance to win. Sacramento hasn't had that as an opportunity ever. And so that's something that gets handled through the draft, through this organization. Yep. I kind of like the young upstart team that takes a chance on a guy like Malik Monk, who just feels like you need to let this guy shine and coach. And then, he stays here, right? For maybe he regrets that decision in hindsight. I don't know. But that's what I like about the small time vibes. Like people, you believe in these players. And that's they want to live here. They want this to be their home. That's Sacramento's edge.
Sure.
And so those are the players we have to seek out. I mean, Jonas Valanciunas is a good example of a guy probably undervalued on the market, I would say, based on what he's producing.
No doubt.
Anyway, I don't want to take up your whole show. Just wanted to get your take on that. So
no, you're good. It's tricky. Maybe Grant and I'll dig into it more on the post-game show tonight. It's tricky to dissect because it's very ambiguous. It's very big, and there's so many parts to it, and there's so many different things going around that you really got to go step by step. But it's an interesting conversation. The last thing I'll say to you is, here's the other thing. Vivek's playbook has been, let's filter through old kings. Let's keep bringing these old kings back through the organization. You saw it with Vlade as GM. We've seen it having Doug as an assistant coach and being part of the deal. If you were going to be the head coach, Doug was going to be on the staff. Like is Vivek's mind made up about how this thing runs? Like we've got to find another king that could possibly serve, because that's what's best for Sacramento. Sacramento wants nostalgia. Sacramento needs to see those players that were in the heyday back still involved, or else it can't be successful. And I think almost you need a fresh set of eyes on this thing that can build something completely different and show that owner something completely different. And you hit the nail on the head when you said the draft, because it's the only way. It is the only way the Kings, as you said, will get their Giannis, that they will get their Wemby, that they could get their, I'm not going to say LeBron, but your Anthony Edwards. The draft is the only way you get that player, and the Kings have never had that player. They have
Tyrese
never.
Halliburton was one guy
but he's still not that guy. What's he doing in Indiana right now? Has he taken them to a championship yet? He hasn't.
To the Eastern Conference Finals.
He has.
They benefited from a lot of injury, and they are coming to form. Don't count Indiana out.
That's a good point. I'll give you that. But okay, but
here's what I'll say. To counter your thing. So I'm over nostalgia personally. I know a couple people are too. I can't speak for everyone. I'm tired of talking about the Weber years and things like that. What I will say is you have Doug. I think you could move forward with Doug. Doug cares enough about basketball, and Grant would give you good perception on this. I don't know if my vibes are true here or not. I don't care if Doug gets new old King staff members or not. He's about someone who understands what I value about this, like the small centered community focus about this town bleeds this team. And I want people to care about playing hard-nosed basketball the right way. Doug can go get whoever he wants on his staff, which can include veterans. It can be old Kings players. It could be new upstart minds who have a philosophy about basketball that interests Doug and aligns with it. I'm on board with all of that. Just fill out your staff with the people you need. And I think Doug is cerebral enough to know maybe where his strengths are and where his weaknesses are. And he could be a good head coach moving forward. But as far as from the outside looking in, just based on how the team is performing, how quickly this team, working with some low IQ guys, are seemingly coming together to put up competitive games now against decent teams. Denver and Clippers, it didn't work out. But there were some definite coaching things that led to those outcomes. So I'm happy moving forward with Doug into the next few years. As long as we build out the staff of people we need for a cohesive vision about what this team is trying to, how they want to play, and let's get everybody on the same page about that. I think Mike Brown is probably too stubborn for his own good. I don't think Doug is. I think Doug is willing to do what works and work with, the talent he has to try to find ways to maximize them. There's something about Doug that resonates with people. And I'm moving forward. That's cool. I'm not saying he's the perfect coach, but I'm liking everything I'm seeing so far. So that doesn't worry me. What worries me if there's additional turnover in the front office, getting a GM that's going to be on the same page. We're right back to the Mike Malone era.
100%.
But so you can't make those mistakes. Again, that doesn't mean you have to fire Doug, but you need a GM and Doug to be in harmony. And I think that can exist. So.
Amen. Love it. Good stuff, Dirk. Way to turn the conversation. All right, buddy. Dirk, always nailing it. Good conversations with him all the time. This thing is so multifaceted, and there's so many different angles to it. We had a big, I should say the fan base had a massive news dump on Friday when it comes to all this. If you keep Doug Christie as your head coach here in Sactown, you got to go, in my opinion, the model that the Clippers went where you get a guy like that, like a Jeff Van Gundy, to sit next to Doug. Dirk's right about Doug in this sense. He gets, and Dirk said this, he gets what gets this fan base going. It's the effort. It's the diving on the floor. It's the things that you cannot budge on. Think about the Golden One Center for the last 3 years, really since the Golden One Center has been open. It's never, maybe the playoffs, maybe a little bit, actually, yes, the playoffs and during the run when Doug first became the coach. Those were the first times, and I would argue almost the run when Doug first became the coach, some of those games, that Miami game, the Memphis game, I know I'm leaving a couple out here, but those were the things that opened my eyes to what Dirk is saying. And those were some of the few times that I truly remember since the G1C has been open, it having an Arco feel, it having that same home court advantage that the Kings have never had since they moved out of Arco. And I strongly believe, in fact, it's a hill that I would die on. The reason it had that feel, the reason the players got that bump from the crowd, the Sacramento crowd, the fan base, when things are at their best, you are playing as the players, you're playing ping pong. You're playing tennis. You're playing, what's the new one? Pickleball. Pickleball. There you go. You're playing a game like that with the fans where you're kicking it back and forth with them, but it's not the three-pointers. It's not the fancy passes that they want to hit the ball back on. It's the defense turning into offense. It's the possessions where Keegan Murray picks somebody up towards the top of the key and chases them around the court for 23 seconds of the shot clock, and there's a shot clock violation. It's the Keon Ellis defensive moments, the recoveries where you get a deflection after you have already been basically out of the play, where Steph Curry gives you one of his moves, but you're able to recover and blow the play up still. Those are the kinds of things, those are the gasoline, that is the tinder that I think makes this fan base burn and makes the highest level of appreciation and love and support be hit back over the net to this basketball team that's at a different level than making a couple of threes in a row. That's at a different level than a dunk. And when the team gets that back from the crowd, it's contagious because it's a completely different reaction. I'm going to be nostalgic here. It's that nostalgia, but the nostalgia isn't the good times when the Kings were winning. The nostalgia is that fundamental 5-man style of basketball. 1-man basketball will never work for the city of Sacramento. Never, ever, ever, ever. It's the team approach, and Doug gets that 100%. But if Doug remains the coach, you've got to bring in somebody that can, it sounds very basic, it's strength finders, somebody that can compensate strongly for the areas that Doug maybe lacks. It's the yin to the yang. So we're putting the cart in front of the horse, but there's a lot of potential. Doug has more tools, I would say, than Mike Brown had when it comes to playing that style of basketball. JV's got some of it in him. Jake LaRavia is quickly showing to be a favorite of Doug's. He played all 17 minutes from the fourth quarter on last night. That's the kind of stuff that the way the Knicks play, the Kings' opponent tonight, that is a very good model for what I think is the ideal style of play in Sactown. And it really starts with the defense. It does 100%. It's turning the defense into the offense. It's insurmountable as an opposing team. Think back to the Arco days when you would come into the Arco, or you would come into the building and the fans are on top of you. You've got cowbells all around you. But you know what made those things so much worse? You had the players up in you. You had no space. The walls were closing in on teams. That's how it felt because of the style that the Kings played. And when the Kings play that style, it's not a coincidence that the fan base was called the sixth man. Because they really were that extra force, that extra player, that extra spirit on the floor that added to the five that were playing as one. You do have pieces. I mean, Keegan, I think Dirk brings up an interesting point there. I said earlier in the show, I don't know. I really don't what Keegan Murray, I think I have an idea of who Keegan Murray is, but I don't know what Keegan Murray is and what he could be as a player. Keegan Murray's never been given that opportunity. He's always been second, third, fourth option. And I feel like sometimes this fan base forgets that he's in year 3. For sometimes how we overvalue players here in Sacramento, Fox being the latest of which, trust me, I know, because I got hammered by the Fox fanatics day in and day out earlier this season before anything started to heat up. But for as much as we sometimes overvalue players, I think this fan base is undervaluing Keegan Murray. I do. And to me, it's one of the more interesting storylines as we finish out this season, especially with Keegan starting to show some more confidence. Not even take the personality out of it, take the, stare down, take the trash talking out of it, but the aggressiveness and, dare I say, confidence in his game right now, I think it's one of the bigger storylines. In fact, probably just as important as is Sabonis going to reevaluate his options after the season? Is DeMar still going to want to be here? I think seeing how Keegan develops and into this summer, what it looks like, because the organization across the board, Keegan Murray has been the one guy that is untouchable. I just wonder if and when he might get a chance to have a bigger role. And I think my basketball gut tells me he's ready for that spotlight and what that could look like. So let's get back to the chat. Ryan, what is your prediction for the Kings game tonight versus the Knicks? No Brunson for New York. What are your key matchups and the key to victory for Sacramento? Two areas. Well, offensively, you cannot play ISO ball with the Knicks. The ISO ball with the Knicks is a very bad formula. Let's pull up the two teams so we can look at them right now as we talk. Because the Knicks are going to want to grind you out. The Knicks are a Tom Tibbs coached team. They're tough. You feel every screen. They don't quit on any plays. And my guess, considering that they have lost every game so far on this road trip and they are still without Jalen Brunson and they're rested, you're going to get a bigger dose of that tonight to make up with it. And I agree with this comment 100%, Dirk. If Jake is out, that is going to be a big loss for the Kings tonight. I 100% agree, because he was one of those guys that you were going to need to go back and forth with Bridges, with Anunoby, with Achua, if he's on the floor. I could not agree with you more there. So my keys tonight, number one, is the ball movement offensively. The ball movement has to be there. The Kings have to have all 5 men involved. I need to see a first quarter that looks very much like the first quarter that we saw in shot distribution against Denver. And I need to see that carry over to the fourth quarter as well. Again, I go back to the numbers last night. Keon, no shots in the fourth quarter. Keegan only had 2 shots in the fourth quarter, and he made both of them. That can't happen. Doug needs to break that up. If you go into that 2, 3, 4, 5-minute stretch where it's 2-man basketball between Levine and DeRozan, I think that's a bad combination, because to me, tonight is a game that is a race to 100 points. Despite the last meeting where the Knicks put up 143, I do not expect that tonight. New York is very physical. So offensively, that is a key. Turnovers, very generic, but the turnovers, the Kings have to value the ball like they did last night. New York will make you pay dearly for your turnovers. They will compound. They will turn them into points, because the cross matches in transition are super, super. Yes, Malik Monk is off the injury report. The cross matches with LaRavia off the floor and not available are not great. So you have to value the basketball. And the last one is offensive rebounding. The Kings cannot allow the Knicks to dominate the offensive boards. You have to hold the Knicks to one shot as many times as possible tonight per possession. One shot per possession. We have seen the Knicks kill them on the offensive boards way too much. So those are the things. And I'm going to throw in one last one. I need Doug Christie to do something if the refs are not giving the Kings a good whistle. I need him to get a T. I need him to do something. If you're going to ask the players to not talk to the refs and let them handle their business on the court, let him handle the referees, then you got to do a little bit more than you're doing. I did not like that DeMar DeRozan had to get fined after that Denver game. Doug should have been the one that was fined. Doug maybe should have got a technical in that game, in my opinion. So I want to see more from him in that way tonight. But look, the thing that I hate the most about tonight was the minutes last night. And I almost feel better. I mean this wholeheartedly. I almost feel better having Monk out tonight and Laravia in. As crazy as that sounds. If you gave me the option, that would be I would have to think hard about that because of how the Kings are going to have to guard the front line. And certainly, here's the other thing. You got to stay out of foul trouble tonight. You cannot have JB in foul trouble. You cannot have Keegan in foul trouble. The front line has to play without fouling. 100%. You guys are kind of agreeing me with Doug and the T's. Alex, I need to see DC be more vocal, fire his team up. Yeah, look, I need, because it is a little bit of a big ask to me. Sure, players are still going to talk to the refs. And I think Malik Monk does a really great job of talking to the refs. I thought he always has. He's kind of changed his style a tiny bit this year. But that's going to happen. That's all fine and good. But Doug needs to, and I'm not implying that he does not have their back. I'm not implying that he's not in the referee's ear, because he is. You see it all the time on TV. But Doug needs to make a statement. When it is clearly sliding away from the Kings when it comes to the whistle, somebody said Doug needs to get angry. Doug's got to do something. And that's not Doug's personality. Grant said that a couple of shows ago. Doug is not the guy that's going to go after an official. But you're now the head coach of a basketball team, and you're asking your team, you are specifically getting on them if they get teed up for the officials. You're asking them not to do it. Let you handle it. You got to handle it a little bit more. I think it would go a long way with the guys too, especially the guys that have been around Sacramento the last couple of years. I think that would really speak loudly. Speaking of Doug, let's listen to him a little bit more last night, and we'll get back to the chat.
And extend the game, but he chose to do what he did. I think Keon peeked over his shoulder and he saw James, so he didn't go. But I told him, whenever you got a 3-side like that, we trust you. Pull the trigger. Jake was on the backside. We would have stunned it and figured it out. So, like, if you're going to lose with a left-handed hook going across the lane that bounces 3 times on the rim, I mean, hats off to Kawhi.
And then, as far as the coaching staff goes, with Luke being gone now, are there any changes? Is anybody moving over to kind of oversee the defense in Luke's place?
I'm the head coach.
Okay. So no other changes.
I'm the head coach. Listen, when it all comes down to it, it's going to fall on my head. That's the bottom line. Since I took over, I've been doing a lot. So nothing really is changing. LB will be moving to the front of the bench when he comes back. Jim will be in the first seat once LB comes back. Other than that, it's going to be a group effort. Those guys get in there. I got my guys who I game plan with and come up with the game plan. And from there, when we get in there, it all falls on me. Bullets, knives, the whole 9.
What did you think of the minutes from Devin tonight? 8 points, seemed to kind of get in there, play physical, scrappy. What did you think of those?
I really like what we saw from Devin. That, really like continuing to learn how to run a team in those moments, but at the same time, understand like you're a rookie, so they might try to play you a little bit. And when they do, stay aggressive, be aggressive. And that's what he did. Made some shots. He has a bright future. I like how he goes about his business, how physical he is, how confident he is. All those things are huge for us.
So that was Doug last night. What you're looking at on the screen is the post All-Star break numbers for the Kings, but I have it filtered. So on the left side of the screen, it is filtered by the first half of the game. The right side of the screen is filtered by the second half of the game. There's a few things that stick out to me. I have it filtered right now, as you can see, by field goal attempts by half. So again, the left half of the screen is the first half of the game, of all the games since the All-Star break. Right side of the screen is the second half of all of the games since the All-Star break. A lot of questions about Jay Crowder. Look, Jay Crowder, who I believe is on the injury report again tonight. If I go back really quick, see, he's been on the injury report for a couple of days. But regardless of whether he's on the injury report or not, the way you got to look at Jay Crowder, and yes, he is on the injury report, game time decision. The way you got to look at Jay Crowder, to me, or at least the way that I am looking at him, is he's another coach on this team. He is more valuable in the film room. He's more valuable coaching up the two ways and the rookies. There's been many reports on, him introducing guys to the officials. That's where his value is coming. His value is not on the court anymore. If you are playing him, then it is a last resort. In fact, we haven't even seen, and this is out of respect, this was what tells you to me that he's even more in that role. When the game's out of hand, he's not even coming in the game. Doug's not putting him in, and that's a respect thing. So that tells me, and by the way, I think Jay has been very valuable for what he has done with the young guys and what he's contributing in practice, what he's contributing in knowledge in the film room. I think those are all very important things. I agree. Keon needs to get threes. He needs to get attempts. I go back when I said at the beginning, the structure is incredibly important, and the 5-man basketball specifically, that's what I'm talking about. Last night out of the gate, you saw a concerted effort to get Keegan Murray a shot. You need to see the same for Keon Ellis. You need to keep drawing those plays up. One of the things that I track is plays out of timeouts and the starts of quarters, because those are plays that should not be fumbled. You're just talking with the coach, you're drawing something up, and it was decent last night. It's better than what it's been, but you've got to get Keon some more looks, and not just the end of the shot clock looks. When this team has been playing well offensively and they've been hitting their three balls, the reason one of my reasons that I have them doing that better is the passing has been better. And I'm not just talking about more passing, it's the location of where the passes are hitting the guys. The passes are hitting the guys in their shooting pockets, which means the pass is coming exactly where you would want to catch it, or exactly where you would start your shot if you were picking up the ball to shoot. They've been hitting them right there. You can see it with Keegan. He's been getting a lot of good passes. Same thing with Keon. Those little things matter. So I want to see good, strong, crisp passing. David, what's up, man? Ryan, what's the deal with Jay Crowder? We hit that. He's more of a coach. An LB that Doug was referring to, that's Leandro Barbosa. He's going to be moving to the front of the coach or bench once he returns. 8+ fouls. Yeah, that would not be good. You do not want to send the Knicks into the penalty, and you can't afford it tonight with the minutes played last night and possibly not having LaRavia in this one. The other number, the Kings, and I truly mean this, the Kings need to have 28 or more assists to win a basketball game in their current construction. And that is held true since we started saying that on this channel. A lot of things about Doug being more aggressive. Appreciate that. Agree with that. More vocal. Absolutely. Angry Doug. We hit that. Ryan, if this Kings roster had a full training camp, do you believe they could have been a top 5 team in the West? No. I don't think they'd be a top 5, but I think that they would definitely be closer to the 6 seed. I think they would be in the neighborhood, but I think they would be a solid 6 as they sit today if they had a training camp. And I also believe this is the other thing that you're going to have to do. I talked about it a couple days ago. You're going to have to, if you're Doug Christie, when Sabonis gets back, start working in some of those double big rotations, because as the Kings get closer and closer to the play-in, assuming that that is going to be their destination, here is the standings as we sit today. Some of these teams that the Kings might be facing, assuming if they get out of the first round or out of the play-in, Oklahoma City's running a double big lineup with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. The Kings can do it. It takes time. That's one of those training camp things where you wish you had the time to develop that. But Doug's got to find a way. The Kings have options now, more options on the front line than they did. But 3 of these next 4 games are 2 of these next 3 games are so incredibly important. And I would actually, since we're past the Clippers game, I don't think the Kings are going to be in Golden State's neighborhood. And sure, you'd like to have the tiebreaker with them. I don't think the tiebreaker matters. The game that I am circling the most is that Phoenix game in Phoenix, second night of a back-to-back after you play Golden State. That is the game that the Kings have to have. And I know Phoenix is not, they might back in, but Phoenix, you are in direct, much like the Clippers, competition with them. You have got to get that win, 100%. Let's go back to the phones. Patrick, all the way in Long Island. What's up, Patrick? You there, Patrick? Did we lose Patrick? All right, we will try to go back to Patrick. Up until the end of the game, he had Kawhi locked down. Yeah, they did a really good job on Kawhi. Alex, Jake Laravia needs to play tonight. I agree, 100%. Yeah, so you guys are all over it. You know what's going on. We've got a full rest of the day in programming. In fact, Mr. Napier, I have not told you this. Grant's going to be here at 5 o'clock. Last time I checked, that should still be on. He is scheduled to be joining you. He's going to do an open forum show, 5 o'clock today. A ton of news with the football signings and moves going on, that opening up with free agency. Also, get into tonight's game with the Knicks, get into a little bit more about tomorrow. If you're just joining us, Malik Monk available for the Kings tonight. Jake Laravia, questionable right knee soreness. He played more minutes last night than I think he's played all season for the Kings. Maybe it was close to what he played in Denver. But so we will have more on that. Then at 6:45, I got to change the times around because the game doesn't start till 7:30 tonight. We'll have the pregame show, halftime with Jerry, as always, and then postgame. So we've got a ton of content still coming at you the rest of the day. We've talked about tonight. We talked about yesterday. The only guy who I think needs to step up right now is Trey Lyles. You know what, Dirk? I like how Trey has played as of late. I have really liked it, especially when Doug was not playing him and then going back to him. I really liked it. Really liked it. Sun's not making playing if KD and Booker. Well, look, here's the thing, though. If they do, it's going to be them or Dallas. Is Dallas going to stay relevant? I read a report today that Anthony Davis is on target to possibly return this season. But they have Booker. They have Durant in a 1-game sample size. I don't care how they've played for 82 games. To me, that is not an even coin flip if you are playing the Suns in a 1-game sample size. Just because of the personnel. Now, the Kings have a better team. There's no doubt about that. but there's things about it that I do not like. Don't think this is not a team. I think this is a bunch of players brought in together with one basketball and no goals. You saying that about this Kings team? Are you talking about the Suns team? Kings are actually playing better than I thought they would after the trades. 100%, Lau. 100%. In fact, Jack on Twitter put these numbers up. These are the numbers for the last 7 games. Not too bad. Check that out. Not too bad at all. Pretty good. And Dirk hit on it too. The defense has been tremendous. All right. Got lots of calls on the line. Then we'll get ready to close up shop for the day. GP, what's up today? GP, you there? GP is actually on here twice. Let's go to the other GP. GP, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. That's funny. You're on the list twice.
Yeah, no, it was the connection was bad first.
Got it.
Yeah, just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I started listening a little bit late, so I don't know what you said about the 2-minute report, and I don't know if that call that was overturned was that on there.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I'll put it back up on the screen for everybody. It said it was the correct call, but then let me get it up really quick. Said it's the correct call, but there should have been a jump ball. I'm confused reading it. So it says replay review of the foul called on called on Jones Jr. Pursuant to the coach's challenge was deemed successful. Jones Jr. makes incidental contact. Now, incidental contact was different than what they said last night. Last night, I believe they said marginal contact. So that conflicts. With DeRozan's hand after he's released his shot and some marginal contact there after the ball is loose at the point of interruption, and therefore play resumes with a jump ball at the center circle. So I think what maybe they're trying to say, and I don't remember off the top of my head because I was going through a ton of replays. The the Clippers got the ball after that. There was no jump ball after the play, right?
Yeah, no, there was a jump ball on
there
another.
was.
Yeah, no, I'm saying there was a jump call on another or jump ball on another call, but I don't remember it being on this specific call.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what they're trying to say is it's the right call, but instead of giving the Clippers the basketball, they should have jumped the ball up. That's where the NBA got it wrong, if I am understanding this right.
Yeah, they're saying it should have been like a 50-50 thing after the fact that.
Correct.
Hey, okay. That, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but honestly, I just think that there wasn't too much landing room for DeMar as well, and he kind of did get hit on the forearm. They want to deem it incidental or marginal. That's fine, but I just think like a score like DeMar or even Levine on our team now, like we got to get the benefit of the doubt of those, calls, that type of call anyways. But that's neither here or there. Looking forward to the Knicks. So Jake LaRavia do you know if he's for sure out tonight?
He last time I checked, he is questionable with right knee soreness. So they have him listed as a game time decision.
I seen the play where he drove it hard. He made the layup, and it was like a kind of like a up and under layup he did on the right side, and then his knee hit hard, and he was kind of slow to get up. I don't know if Doug's seen that, but even though I think he was playing tremendous defense on Harden, and I don't think Doug wanted to put Ellis back on Harden because Harden is like he's like a bigger guard, I think when he drives it, I think Ellis would have been, it would have been much tougher for Ellis to stop the drive, but then he got, he was blowing past LaRavia anyways, but I think that was due to the knee hitting the ground there. Hopefully he's all right because we need him, and I think for tonight's win, we got to shut that guy Josh Hart out, man. He killed us.
100%.
He killed us last game, and honestly, like he shouldn't even be an offensive threat. Like I get it that he's a hustle player. Yes, hey, if he gets some hustle points, albeit, but other than that, we can't leave him open for the short corner three. We can't let him, bully our guys down there and, get offensive rebounds. That just cannot happen at all. I love the defense that we have been playing. I think as fans, we just kind of get frustrated at times when, that whistle does go the other way, for so long, but, I'm optimistic and, I think we should for sure get this game. And, like I said before, we got to keep racking wins because towards the end, we got to take care of the Suns team twice and, Memphis, a couple of those teams and games coming up, the teams are banged up, so we got to take full advantage. I know everybody's kind of banged up at this time of the season. Malik's coming off of a couple games being out, and as far as Sabonis goes, man, and the Sam Amick, um, the article he put out, I think that was horrible timing, man. I just don't think you do that on the game, on Fox's return. That's something for maybe towards the end of the season, even more, like very end of the season. But I just think the timing is horrible, even for ESPN to try to put out there, oh, Sabonis is going to be looking for another team. Have
They
you guys
didn't
been?
say that. They didn't say that.
Well, something along the lines of that. I'm just saying that, have they been looking at Sabonis's numbers and his production? Like, he's a perfect four, even if we were to go big against a team, I think him and JV work very well. There's no reason we would trade him or, he would think about another organization or making a move. I don't think that's like all of a sudden. I'm not sure where Sam Amick was trying to go with that. I just think it's horrible timing with that. But as far as the Kings go, man, tonight we just got to take care of business. It's tough. We're not going to get the calls, and Tom Thibodeau's teams are always tough to play against.
Amen.
Even when he was coaching the Bulls. So we just got to bring the fight to them.
Amen. I appreciate it, GP. Good stuff.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, man. Like
You
the
too,
beam.
brother. Light the beam. Look, the De'Aaron, I know you're pulling at the Sabonis part of that, but the reason those articles dropped when they dropped was to give another side of perspective, in my opinion, to the fan base. And I think Sam did a tremendous job on his article. I actually don't have a problem with the Sabonis piece in there, but the timing of it was 100%. Just like before the Kings returned home after Mike Brown was fired, you had the ESPN piece drop. I believe it was Ramona Shelburne that said the players were not counseled or talked to about the move because there was a lot of speculation that Fox was going to take it on the chin that night. In fact, he got a mixed reaction. I had reached out to Michelle Draper, who was at the game, and she said it was a little bit mixed that night. So that was what the timing was. Yes, indeed. A happy 30th birthday to Zach LaVine. We have not said that. And MC, my man, thanks for checking in. Yeah, I do think Zach feels a little bit more at home. I do. I just need Zach LaVine to not try to distribute the ball. If you're open, shoot it. I want to see him take the easier shot rather than the harder shot. And a lot of times he opts for the second, but like last night, he is good for 2 or 3 plays, and he got lucky last night on 2 of them that they were deflected out of bounds and the Kings retained possession. One was a turnover where he tries to make passes that are they're impossible. There's too much traffic. They're telegraphed. Guys are too long. They just can't get through. But he has a shot. Take the shot. Take the shot, Zach. You're a scorer, not a distributor. So I want to see that. And then also just dribbling into double team, stuff like that. Zach, one thing you'll notice when you watch tonight, Zach rejects nearly more screens than he accepts. And when he accepts the screens, he's not usually, and I'm talking about when he has the ball, he's not usually coming real hard off of those. So give him some space, let him operate. But yes, I do feel like he is starting to make himself feel a little bit more at home. Okay, this guy's conflicted. He's going to be staying up late for this one tonight. Patrick, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Ryan?
Good. How's everything out in New York?
Oh, everything's good. They put the fire out.
Good.
Supposedly somebody was cooking s'mores and something caught up on fire. It was really ridiculous. I just read it today.
Crazy. All that for s'mores?
I know, right? I mean, it's nuts. But anyway, hey, I tuned in late, but I just want to, add a little bit of Nick perspective for you.
Please, that would be great.
First of all, the player you want to watch tonight is Deuce McBride.
Okay.
Before Brunson got injured, I'll be honest with you, I was sort of hoping he would take Miguel Bridges' place because he's just been terrible this year. I mean, for all the draft picks they gave up for him, I'd like to see him at least score 15 points a night, and that hasn't happened. Which is very discouraging. One other thing I would like to add is that Zach LaVine did very well against us when he was with the Bulls. He beat us twice already this season. So I'm a little leery about LaVine. I don't know how you guys are over there, but I think if us Knicks fans are a little worried about seeing LaVine tonight.
Okay. What about, so I know Cat's been having a really good season, Patrick, and I know the scouting report is trying to drive him off the 3-point line. What does his game look like when it comes to attacking the paint and playmaking?
He usually does pretty good. I mean, he's very good in spurts. He was very consistent until like about maybe 5 games ago. Now he sort of like comes up weak to the basket.
Okay.
That's the best I can say about him. I mean, but there's definitely a lot more upside to. I'm sorry, I'm losing myself here.
No, you're good.
There's very much more upside the Cat than there is the Bridges right now. I'm really worried about that. Brunson sort of carried the team until he got injured. I mean, they won 3 games after the All-Star break, but it was all on Brunson. And a friend of mine even told me the other day he's going to play really hard, and then once he gets injured, we're going to see what the real Knicks are. And they picked up all these players this year to distribute the ball more, to have more people scoring. I mean, thank God for OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. But we have to have more consistent scoring, and I think this is going to help us in the long run to see what this Knicks team is. The other fact is that they can't beat any good teams, which is getting really discouraging. But we'll have to see what happens,
Yeah. So who's going to be replacing? Who's going to be playing? And obviously, Josh Hart is your 1B there when it comes to ball handling. But who, if anybody, can simulate what Brunson, not in terms of scoring, but in terms of ball movement, does for the offense tonight?
I think it's going to have to be more Towns.
Okay.
And he's going to have to distribute the ball a little bit. And Deuce McBride, he was, like I said, he was really hot. But that's more as a scorer, not as a distributor. But they're going to have to depend on him and Bridges. And Bridges, I mean, he does move the ball quite a bit, but I mean, scoring wise, it's just very disappointing.
All right. Well, I love it. Which way do you see this going?
I'm hopeful in the Knicks. I can see the Knicks maybe winning tonight because the Kings may be tired from that game last night. So I can see them winning, but like not by a lot. I can see them winning by maybe 10 points. I'll say that tonight because they're rested.
It feels like a race to 100 tonight again. I think it's going to be very similar to last night.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't think it's gonna be like it was when they were at the Garden when they scored like all those
Right.
points on them. So
Yep.
I do respect the Kings, and they've been playing much better lately. So should be a good game tonight.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to you afterwards as well. I appreciate you calling in today, Patrick.
All right, you
Man,
know me. It's very late. I'll try to stay up and call.
hell yeah, you're the
All
best.
right.
Thanks, Patrick.
All right, thanks, bud. Take
All right,
care.
buddy. Be
All
well.
right.
That's Patrick all the way from Long Island, y'all, giving us the info on the Knicks. I love it. I absolutely love it. Look, Progressive, I don't know. First off, 34, Doug Christie would tell you that's not enough. Forced threes. I'm trying to think back. Maybe Levine, a couple of them. Is definitely that step back fadeaway. That was a tough one. Here's my problem. And I said it last night on the post-game show. Said it earlier today. I need DeMar DeRozan's toes off that damn three-point line. It's the worst shot in basketball. There's no worse shot in basketball than having your toe on the three-point line. Here's the other thing that I would say. I'm wondering how and if the Kings coaching staff is looking at or will look at how they could get Keegan Murray, how they could get Keon Ellis into that spot that DeRozan ends up in so many times in some of their sets where he's at the top of the key or he's free throw line extended beyond the three-point line. I would love to see a couple of those swings and those looks go to Keon. Again, what bugged me in the fourth quarter last night was that Keon had no shot attempts and Keegan only had 2, and he made both of them. Ralph, you're going to close out the show for us today because we got Grant coming up here at 5 o'clock. Make sure you join him again here in just a few minutes. And we've got full coverage tonight on the channel for the Kings and the Knicks, as always. Ralph, welcome in.
All right, now what's going on? As
What's
you know,
up, buddy?
I was. It's definitely tough when you see freaking Kawhi Leonard hit that on us. And if this was any other team, I'd be celebrating that shot. Just, I love seeing our Aztecs do well. But I was at the game into it, and it was painful, man. And like you said, there's no time to sulk. But I feel like there's some things, with getting shots for others. Do you think that Malik Monk would have made a difference in that regard? Because DeMar and Levine were really getting to their spots. So when we do get Monk going in the future, whether it's on Friday or sooner than that he can help get Keegan and Keon those shots? Or is that something that's got to be on the coach, or both?
I don't think that it's on Monk. I think that that's on the entire team. And I do understand Progressive's point, and I don't disagree. This team does need to try to get some better shots. I would argue Monk needs to try to get himself going. And I think that's why Coach Christie had turned to the Fultz-Monk backcourt, which now I think Fultz's playing time is probably tonight. I bet Coach goes to Devin Carter before he goes to Fultz. But the bigger question is, how can we get Malik Monk back to Malik Monk, get him in the pick and roll sets, get him into some of those different step back spots that he likes from the wing? Because I think too much of the onus of distributing has been on him, and it's taken a little bit away from his scoring.
And that's where I've been happy with Levine and DeMar's aggressiveness lately in creating their own shot. But like you said, it's got to be on the whole team to create for others, because he had that great pass to the corner to Keegan. And I do want to see Keegan get more shots and Keon get involved there, because it makes us just that more dangerous. At the same time, I slightly disagree with you on the DeMar toe on the line, because I feel like this is kind of like jokingly, but I feel like if he's behind the line, he misses the shot. I don't know. It's so bad. It's ridiculous. His toe on the line. I feel like his 3-point percentage would be better. But it's such a bad habit. It's just like, it's not great court awareness.
Yeah, it happens. Look, if that's what I'm picking at DeMar DeRozan for, then I'm probably being a jerk, because he does so much for this team. It just seems like it always pops up at the worst time.
No, it does. It does. And I think I'm thinking back to Toronto, that one game again. We were going against them, and it's happened. It's happened a lot. And that's where I'm slightly okay with it because he does so much drawing those fouls and things like that. But man, I feel like we walk away with that win. And I don't want to harp too much on this with the refs. And I know you guys have talked about it ad nauseum, but Ryan, you got to clear it up for me.
Yeah.
When we watched the game against Denver and Keon high-fived Jamal and that was deemed a foul, why is it this crew from the Clippers game is deeming that not? I'm okay with whatever they call, but why is there so much inconsistency from different fouls in this high-five sense?
I think
yeah.
Yeah, I said it last night, Ralph, on the post-game show. I think the high five foul calls and even the three-point shooting foul calls and defending the three as a defender has become the new roughing the passer in the NFL, where it's very subjective. And if you're a defender, it's actually one of the harder plays, if not the hardest, to defend on the court, because not only are you worrying about the high five and trying to defend that way, but you have to be worried about landing zone and where you're at, giving them enough space. I just think that it's one of those calls that, although it is a point of emphasis and they are zooming in on it, it varies from crew to crew. And here's the other thing. I think it varies from game to game as well. It depends on how a game is being played. Like a Knicks game, they're going to come at you 0 to 100 for all 48 minutes. So they make it really hard for the refs to call every foul because they play so physical. And so the Kings need to meet that level and let it shake out where it falls out. And got to let Doug Christie probably get a tee, do a little bit more, take a fine. If I was him, I would have been paying DeRozan's fine in Denver, since he's asking the team not to harp on the refs or pay any attention to him.
That's hard on us as the viewer. I can only imagine the players. It's different from game to game and crew chief to crew chief and things like that.
Yep.
In a last point is I've been happy with the defense. That yesterday was a tough game, but JV in the middle and Jake LaRavia have stepped up big time. And I think that's what we can see. Hopefully we got that tough schedule and Knicks is not going to be any easier. But I think if we can keep this average type of defense above average, I think we can hopefully maybe stay in this 9, maybe get in the 8th. But I've been happy with it since the All-Star break. What your thoughts?
Yeah, no, look, these are the numbers the last 7 games. I think the Kings defensively have looked much better, much crisper. I think they've been on a string. Now, I also think that Doug has had better tools to play with. Like Jake LaRavia, obviously, is Doug's one of his favorites to turn to now. If you bring up Keon or Keegan's defense, he'll bring up LaRavia as well. So JV changes things as well. So I think that balances out too. The 2 numbers that I'm looking at is free throw attempts, which have gone down. I don't like that. I need them to keep getting to the line. Free throw percentage is still good at 2, but the other number that I'm looking at as 3-point attempts. We all know the Kings don't guard the 3-ball well. They're 29th in the league at guarding the 3-ball, but the attempts that they're allowing are coming down. Earlier this season, it was at 25. It was at 27. A couple of games ago, it was at 22. Today, it sits at 19. So if you're going to be the worst at guarding the 3, just try to limit the attempts, and they're doing that as well. And so I think it's a combination of all that and just better effort. These guys are communicating. You can hear it on TV audibly. They are communicating more than the last unit was.
Oh yeah, at Intuit, we could hear Doug yelling at them for their defensive coverages, and I know you can do that all the time, but the team was communicating. I love the hustle and everything. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep, appreciate you, Ralph. Good way to close us out today. Fun show, y'all. I appreciate you. Big woo! here on a Monday, picking you up. Remember the return of Malik Monk tonight off the injury list. Jake LaRavia, though, pay attention to him. He is questionable, popped up today on the injury report with right knee soreness. The Knicks without Jalen Brunson. The Knicks, having lost their last couple of games, they're going to come in tonight. They're going to be ready. They were waiting in Sacramento for the Kings. So hopefully the Kings have a little bit left in the tank every game this year. Every game here on out. So important. If you're going to drop one, in the next 3, I would say this is probably the one that you would drop, but you got to get all 3. Got to get all 3. I'm not making excuses for this team. Got to get all 3. Don't forget, and I appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting. Give us a big thumbs up. We will be taking a much deeper dive into the numbers, the game plan. We'll have some pictures up from last game showing you some looks that I think you might see tonight. The zone defense is certainly, I think you're going to see tonight from the Kings, some variations of it. I certainly also, I don't know why I'm saying certainly so much. I definitely think that you will also see some trapping. That's going to be important. Different looks. The Kings will mix it up. We'll get into all of that 6:45 with the pregame show. But before that, Napes, he's here. Open forum tonight, 5 o'clock, just here in about a little bit more. They're a little under 40 minutes. Big thanks to Bennett's for sponsoring today's show and the King's Court. Go check them out. All 3 locations in the greater Sacramento area. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Check out all their great offerings. Love their steaks, prime cuts of steak and seafood, but also great specials. Monday Wine and Dine tonight. Get you 2 entrees, bottle of wine, under $70. Don't want a full meal? No problem. Go hit up happy hour, 2 to 6 o'clock today and every day of the week. All right, make it a great one. Come back for Napes here in just a little bit. Tonight, we will not let the Knicks get the last. Not happening. Go Kings, light the damn beam. Court is dismissed on a Monday.